And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello and welcome back to your RBLR Rays show. I am your host, Pat Davenport. It's good to have you listening or watching along with us today on this cold November day here from where I'm recording from in England. But in the Bay Area, we are witnessing what could be, I'm not going to bury the lead here, one of the hardest off seasons in Rays history. And there are many reasons for that, but there's one big reason for that, and that is this stadium saga that has kind of taken the forefront of all Rays business over the past couple of weeks. And we're going to break down what's taken place over the past week, because it's been a busy week in that regard, but also on the baseball side, it's been a pretty busy week for the front office, as well as we're going to talk about a significant trade that took place in order to make room for some Rule 5 protect guys. We also had the non-tender deadline last night, so we saw some guys lose their roster spot and going to become free agents early. We're going to break down who those guys are, why those decisions were made, and we're going to just kind of evaluate where the Rays are and where they're going to go from here. So it's going to be a busy show for just me alone to handle, but I'm glad you're going to be listening along. It's going to be jam-packed, and we would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments or below, because it's lots of controversial topics we're going to be talking about today, and you, a member of the Rays community, your voice is extremely valued. And last thing before we start, if you enjoy what you listen to today, a big thing you can do to help out the RBLR channel and help out this podcast is give us a like. It does wonders for where we appear in the algorithm. And also subscribe or follow on social media will let you be notified whenever we go live, which a lot of our podcasts are, and also whenever a new episode drops, so you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date with everything the Rays and all the other Tampa Bay sports teams are getting up to, so it's very worthwhile. Okay. Right, folks. I'm glad Zach isn't here for it, because we're going to have to talk about the stadium again, his least favorite topic, and for good reason as well, because we thought the good news for the stadium had been settled, and over the past couple of weeks, everything has completely turned on its head, and this week in particular has been particularly dramatic for the Rays' chance of staying in St. Petersburg and having a stadium ready for the 2028 season. Where we last left it was that the vote on the final bond approval for the Rays public money for the new stadium was delayed until after the election, and then of course we had new members in the council that were stadium skeptic and put the deal in doubt. And Chris Lavatla was a key voice, particularly online, in kind of saying that why the Rays may not get a deal with Pinellas County. Where we've been since has been quite dramatic, to say the least. And it's been pretty crazy. So a week ago, Stu Sternberg, the Rays owner, released a statement to the Tampa Bay Times, putting the blame on the county's 30-day delay in approving stadium bonds. And he says it is likely to kill the new stadium deal if there is a delay to the bond vote, which is what everyone kind of expected to happen. Then, on November 19th, the Rays executive teams, particularly Brian Auld and Matt Silverman, issue a warning letter to Pinellas County saying that the Rays have suspended all work on the new stadium and now will incur higher costs that they're not able to absorb alone, and kind of attacked almost the council for their methods of doing things and their attempt to delay proceedings, which did not go down particularly well with Pinellas Council. I mean, usually if you're asking a group of people for hundreds of millions of dollars, the best way to go about it is not to insult their methods. It's not usually going to kind of speed their money giving along. Even people that were supportive of giving money for the new stadium within the council criticized the Rays and the letter that was sent to them the day of the vote. saying that this was poor working practice and is sending a lot of bad messages and causing fractures in the relationship between the two sides. And then when the vote actually took place, as expected by that point, the Pinellas County did vote to delay any kind of issuing of stadium bonds another 30 days to December 17th will be the new vote on whether bonds will be approved. So yeah, a delay of a month, and they cited that the Rays' behavior was a deciding factor for a few of the voters on that. Their aggressive stance on the matter was something that really put them off giving the money straight away. A couple of days later, there was a vote for repairs to the Trop, money being issued to repair Tropicana Field's roof, which was going to be for $23 million of public money. And actually, the city council voted to approve that. The money was approved for the Rays to get money off Pinellas County to repair Tropicana Field's roof. And then, in maybe the most dramatic turn of all, they get Brian Auld, the Rays president, tells the media that he wishes that did not happen. So the council returns to session. They call Auld forward to answer questions. And he says that from his perspective, there is no stadium deal anymore because of the delay that happened a few days earlier, and that efforts to repair Tropicana Field are not worth it because they do not want to return to St. Petersburg at all. And so the council re-vote, and they now delay the bond vote past December 17th into 2025 and re-vote on the roof repair, unanimously denying public money on the roof repair after approving it just hours before earlier in the day. So as things stand, approval of the bond vote has been delayed twice, from first of all to December 17th and now into 2025. And then the Rays were approved the roof repair money and now denied it. And that was a really, really busy day on November 21st, just a couple of days before the recording of this podcast. That's the current state of play. The Rays do not have permission to have St. Petersburg's money until at least 2025, and no money to repair the Trop. I don't want to be hyperbolic. I don't want to over dramatize things. But to me, my current opinion on it is the Rays are done in St. Petersburg. That's dead. There is no way back from here for that stadium to be approved. I don't think the Rays even want that stadium to be approved now that the money's been delayed as far as it is. And now it looks like a return to the Trop in the interim is even not going to happen at this point, because the Rays won't pay to repair it entirely themselves, which is a really dark day for the Rays franchise. And in the space of 2 weeks, essentially, we've seen a bright future for a brand new stadium in St. Petersburg for the Rays turn into completely nothing. And the Rays may never return to St. Petersburg at all. And this is purely because of Stu Sternberg's and the Rays executives' aggression in pursuing a quick amount of and a significant portion of public money to build this new stadium, and of course the council's change in stance following the hurricane and the election. So it's a mix of bad luck, but also poor practice on the Rays business side, I would say, in an attempt to secure as much public money as possible. I think both sides are at fault for this happening, and unfortunately, the only people that are actually going to suffer are fans in St. Petersburg, in Pinellas County, who are going to lose their Major League Baseball team. Officially, I must say that the deal is not technically dead. The council said that they will vote again in 2025 on potentially giving money. But actually, what is expected between now and then is a formal letter of withdrawal from the Rays saying that they no longer wish to pursue this project and killing it entirely. That hasn't happened at the time of recording, but is expected in the coming weeks, officially killing the deal. Where do we go from here? There's a few different ways that this can go. Either the Rays, under the current Stuart Sternberg regime, resume negotiations with Tampa proper city council, in an attempt to get a new stadium there, which was floated about a few years ago that could happen, but was kind of killed because of the reluctance of the council to give the amount of money that they wanted to give. But maybe now, in light of recent events, negotiations could resume. I'm currently skeptical on that because of the amount of money the Rays would be asking for from Tampa in terms of public money and the lack of funding they wish to give themselves to a stadium. And I think Tampa Council would be reluctant to approve that amount of money. Not impossible, but I think unlikely. If that doesn't happen, then a full move of the team is a likely scenario at this point. The timeline for that, impossible to justify. Where that could be, impossible to say. But a move of the team seems like a likely outcome at this point, unless Tampa make a last-minute bid to keep the team roughly where they're supposed to be. And whether this happens through a sale of the team by Stuart Sternberg, or whether he decides to negotiate and hold on to the team, who knows? It's too early to say. But a move out seems likely. The only way that I could maybe see this working is Sternberg sells the team to someone that wants to keep the team in Tampa Bay and is willing to put forward the money themselves to pay for a stadium in Tampa. I think that's the only way it can happen. There's a non-zero chance that that could happen, but again, there's still too many moving parts. But it's been a dark couple of weeks for the Rays' future in St. Petersburg and potentially in the entire state of Florida. So I'm sorry to kind of lead with such a negative tone. And I guess all we can do now is wait in this terrible purgatory, I suppose, on what happens next, because there is many branching paths that this could go, and we've just got to wait and see. But I wouldn't hold your breath for the stadium that seemed so close to us in St. Petersburg ever coming to an actual reality at this point. And I would love to know you guys' thoughts on this, people that live in Florida. I would love to hear what you have to say. So please do let us know in the comments, reach out on social media to let us know what your thoughts and feelings are on this whole situation, what you think the outcome might be, because I think it would be really interesting to hear from people closer to the source about that. So I'm gonna move away from stadium talk, the depressing stadium talk, and talk about some actual on the field roster construction baseball news now, because it's been a busy week in that regard as well. And that kind of kicked off with protection for the Rule 5 draft. Last week, me and Zach speculated on who they may or may not protect. At the end of the day, their protection was only to two guys, and they were the two on the top 30 prospect list, and that was Joe Rock and Ian Seymour, who are both excellent left-handed pitchers that had some good showing in AAA last year. And in order to make room on the roster for those guys, they made a few other bits and bobs moves. They first of all traded Jose Siri to the New York Mets in exchange for a right-handed reliever in Eric Oz. I believe it's pronounced Eric Orza. And that was a pretty shocking move to trade a guy that was such a key part of the team the past couple of years. And I guess I'm going to try and explain why this move was made and what it looks like. Jose Siri is a guy that we have talked about at length on this podcast, and has often been a hot topic of discussion in Rays discourse across the whole fandom. And that's because he is such an outlier in terms of the tools that he can bring and the tools that he absolutely does not have. Contact skill in the mud, plate discipline in the mud, power 90th percentile, like true 30 home run potential, speed right there. I think he ranks as 99th percentile in sprint speed according to Baseball Savant, which is elite stuff, and one of the best fielders in all of baseball out there in center field in a premium position. I mean, in 2024 alone, he had 16 outs above average, which puts him in the 99th percentile of fielders. He has 97th percentile arm strength as well. So he is an elite fielder, an elite base runner, and can absolutely clobber the ball. If only he could make any kind of consistent contact and stop chasing as much as he did. I mean, he struck out 37.9% of the time last year, and swung and missed at 42% of pitches last year, which is, his swings, 41.9% of them were whiffs, which is crazy low, first percentile. So it was always like, if he could just like lay off a few more pitches, if he can make contact a little bit more, we got a hell of a player on our hands. And in 2023, he hit 25 home runs, which was, really, a big breakout year for him, plus that amazing defense. But then last year, 18 home runs, a 187 average, a 621 OPS, really underperformed. And then, of course, there were the controversial work ethic concerns about Jose Siri as well. He got benched for a few games by Kevin Cash because they said he wasn't working hard enough. And while he's an insane vibes guy, really good clubhouse guy, did he always put his best effort in? No, according to Kevin Cash. So if he's not willing to give 100% while struggling at the plate, it's a bad look. And unfortunately, I think the Rays have decided to prioritize, at the moment, Johnny DeLuca as the primary center fielder going into 2025. That may change. They may acquire someone. They may kind of shift tact of what they want in center field. But Johnny DeLuca seems to be the guy that they really want to get going. And while he struggled a bit in his debut year with the Rays, coming over in that Tyler Glasnow trade, he still showed outstanding defense, 8 outs above average, kind of playing all around the outfield, which is, again, elite. Really good arm strength as well. He's in the 87th percentile there, 98th percentile sprint speed. So he can bring pretty much close to Jose Siri's defensive value out there. And, in terms of his actual hitting, last year he was 217 with a 6 home run, 609 OPS. So he really struggled. But in the second half, he really started to show lots of improvement in his plate discipline, started to have better results output-wise as well. So they're banking on that second half, Johnny DeLuca, where he started to kind of put up some kind of league average style offensive numbers, is the real Johnny DeLuca and what we can expect next year. And if he can put up league average hitting with the elite defense, then essentially you've got a prime Kevin Kiermaier clone. I mean, obviously, not quite the once-in-a-generation fielding, but close enough to it where the hitting can kind of offset the not quite a once-in-a-generation fielder, but still a Gold Glove favorite if he gets enough time out there in center field. So I guess it's a tough pill to swallow because Siri was a really good clubhouse guy. You could tell that everyone liked him in there, and he was a fun player. He was El Rayo for a reason. But I think Johnny DeLuca will put up similar, if not better, production than Siri next year, and now has a clearer lane to run in with the center field job kind of his to lose now. So I think it all kind of works out on the position player side, and we're not going to feel the loss of Siri too much in an ideal world. And then in terms of Eric Orza, he didn't play very much major league time. He only pitched a couple of innings with the Mets in 2024, but put up some really good numbers in AAA. In 61 and 2/3 innings, you pitched to a 2.92 ERA, a 1.94 average against, struck out 84 guys. So he has some really good strikeout numbers, some really good results down in AAA. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of Oliver Drake. If you guys remember Oliver Drake when he was in the Rays pen, has an all right fastball, but then has a really, really good changeup that kind of plays off really well. It's kind of an outlier changeup with how well it drops in the zone. And fastball changeup is enough to get you by as a solid reliever, especially if you've got a bit of an outlier changeup like Orza does. He also has quite a lot of extension in his throw as well. So I'm happy with picking up a solid reliever in exchange for Siri, because I think some may have considered Siri as a DFA candidate too. So to get a guy that can compete for a pen spot next year, we like that. He could be a medium leverage average right-handed option. So we take those every day of the week. Is it a mind-blowing trade? No, but I think it's solid and potentially the right decision going forward as Siri starts to enter his arbitration-eligible years and his salary starts to exceed his value. Also, they made a couple of other DFAs. Austin Shenton got DFA'd and shipped off to the Mariners as well. Which thank you for your service, Austin Shenton. Couldn't really get it together. Showed a moments of promise right at the back end of 2024, but couldn't really stick on a roster spot, especially with Johnny Aranda kind of doing what Austin Shenton does, but hitting a lot better. So it was going to be tough for him to find playing time. So hopefully he can do well with the Mariners, and we wish him all the best. Thank you, Austin Shenton, for your efforts. Okay. In terms of other moves that were made, it was the non-tender deadline just a couple of days ago, and something that you're not going to ever non-tender, you're going to keep in your wardrobe roster for the rest of your time wearing clothes on this earth, is a excellent RBLR piece of merchandise. And if you want to gain something incredible, like a Bring Back the Devil t-shirt, or the RBLR Sports WCW Nitro branded t-shirt, or an ugly shirt for a beautiful cause with the Tampa Bay Lightning, you can go to shop.rblrsports.com right now and pick up some amazing merchandise to represent your favorite Bay Area teams. And if you use the promo code FLAPPY, you get 10% off your order. What a deal as we approach the holiday season. Use the promo code FLAPPY at shop.rblrsports.com to get your favorite Tampa Bay team merchandise. All right, we're going to talk about the non-tender deadline. Basically, what this is for arbitration-eligible players that people think are getting too expensive, who teams think are getting too expensive, and they don't want to even take them to arbitration. They just want to cut ties with them now. And they ended up cutting ties with 3 players officially, but 4 technically. Richard Lovelady got DFA'd during the Rule 5 kind of stuff, but now he's been officially non-tendered as well. So he's being double dumped, unfortunately. Sorry, Richard Lovelady. I mean, couldn't really get it together with the Rays. It was an interesting kind of project that they were trying to make, but he could never really get any good results. I'm fine with him being cut personally. Sorry, Lovelady. I hope you get a contract somewhere else. Your name is too good to not be in Major League Baseball. And then the 3 guys that they officially non-tendered were Dylan Carlson, Tyler Alexander, and Colin Poche. I'm going to explain why the Rays may have cut them and whether or not they were worth the salary that they were getting. We're going to start with Dylan Carlson on the position player side. I've seen a lot of Rays fans kind of upset that Dylan Carlson's been cut. And I think, personally, we've got to kind of get over 2021. It was a while ago, and Dylan Carlson has come nowhere near producing his 2021 season at all, with the Cardinals, with the Rays, at all. And maybe that was a mirage. And what we're seeing now is the player Carlson is, which is a player that's frankly not really good enough. I know the potential's there. He does have a little bit of pop to him. He's a switch hitter, but honestly, he's a so-so defender, can only really play the corner outfields, and has never really shown any kind of offensive consistency the past 3 years. I love that the Rays took a chance on him in case there was a glimmer of potential there, especially when we were a little thin outfield-wise after the Arozarena trade, and there were a couple of injuries to Palacios. But in his time with the Rays, since being acquired at the trade deadline, he played in 37 games. He hit 3 home runs and hit to an 84 WRC plus, and put up minus 0.2 FWAR. He was below replacement level. Not good enough. We can't be contending and fielding a guy, even as a 4th outfielder, that's putting up below replacement level numbers. He's just not good enough. And if we're looking for someone that can play so-so defense in a corner outfield, they're a dime a dozen, and we can find one that can actually hit as well, for probably similar money for what Carlson's going to be taking. I don't think the money is a massive issue even for the Rays, because he was only going to earn a couple of million. But really, what's more importantly is the roster spot. Is he worth a whole roster spot? Probably not if he's below replacement level. So I know he's a name, a recognizable name, but he has not been good for 3 years, and we can definitely find a corner outfielder that can do a better job than Dylan Carlson can. So we tried with him, we gave him a run, but it didn't show anywhere near enough. So I can understand that DFA completely. The next one was Colin Poche. Well, no. Before we get to Poche, because I think that's the big and contentious one. Tyler Alexander, who we signed to a deal in the offseason, pitched 107 and 2/3 innings for the Rays this year, which I don't think was ever part of the plan, but injuries kind of caused that to happen. Over that time, he put up a 5.10 ERA. And what's worse is he pitched to minus 0.6 FWAR. Again, below replacement value guy. He was kind of there as a swingman, emergency starter, sometimes bulk guy, attempting to recreate the magic we had in Ryan Yarbrough with a kind of soft throwing lefty that can kind of cover a bunch of innings, but it never really came about for him. He never really inspired. He had a couple of great starts. He had that almost perfect game back near the start of the season, but really he was the guy that you went, oh man, I can't believe we're having to throw him out there today when we could have had, Shane McClanahan if he were healthy, or Jeff Springs if he was healthy. So he could never really put it together. And, in terms of, swingman Erasmo, throw him out there when you're losing or really in a pinch, guys. Again, a dime a dozen, $2.5 million is a lot to give up for a roster spot for a swingman. We can do better. We can try someone else, do a project with someone else. So that's fine. I guess the most contentious one is Colin Poche. Poche stuck around with the team for a good few years now, and has shown some excellent seasons as a Ray and been one of the best Rays relievers over the past 3-4 years now. But last year, he was not at his best. He had some injury problems. He only managed to pitch 37 1/3 innings, and this was his worst year as a full-time big leaguer. Again, negative WAR. His walk rate is up, and his stuff was starting to decline. He has that amazing outlier, kind of almost rising fastball that plays really well, or used to play really well, but it started to get less and less exciting and less fooling towards hitters as time has went on. And this year he was starting to get damaged a little bit more. And when he's got just a fastball and a slider to rely on, neither of which are particularly inspiring anymore, and he's at his age 30 season now, you could probably go, hey, Mason Montgomery's here, who's got like some of the most electric stuff of any reliever in baseball. Montgomery can take Poche's spot as the high leverage lefty for sure. It's a tough one because, he's a guy that we've become attached to, but guy on the other end of 30, declining stuff, volatile, injury prone. It's tough to give up a roster spot when good relievers is something the Rays are swimming in. We may as well continue to give spots to guys that are cheaper as well, because $3.5 million, I think Poche was projected to get. We can pick up a guy for major league minimum that will end up probably outperforming what Poche is going to do in future seasons. So it's ruthless efficiency, which can be, hard to swallow for sure when we get attached to players, but it's what's kept the Rays successful and kept their bullpen in particular really fresh, exciting, dynamic, successful over the years, is that they keep cycling through guys. You can never get used to a guy for too long, and they love to bring these like crazy stuff guys and outlier arms, and they're going to continue to bring those guys. And Poche, he did his job. He was effective. Thank you for your service, but now we got to move on. We got to find the next big thing, the next Colin Poche. Hopefully another team picks him up again, but it's a shame because personally, when I first saw that he was non-tendered, I thought, hey, surely he's worth something, a reliever with a bit of pedigree. Surely he's a lottery ticket prospect. Surely he's like at least cash considerations, maybe international slot money, but apparently no teams were interested, particularly when they suspected he might have been non-tendered anyway. Why bother giving up anything when you can go sign him for major league minimum if you just wait a couple of weeks? So that's where we're at in terms of non-tender Rule 5 stuff. It means we've got some open roster spots. That's a big exciting thing. we've got a few roster spots open. So how the Rays decide to fill them is going to be very interesting. Maybe some trades are on the horizon. Maybe some signings are on the horizon. Of course, every other major league team has done their non-tenders as well. Lots of non-tenders across Major League Baseball looking for jobs. And maybe some are going to be something that the Rays are interested in. I know there was a lot of smoke around the Phillies not tendering Austin Hayes, which, you know, could be a really, really big one. Will the Rays want to spend? I think he'll be attractive to a lot of teams, so it may not be a major league minimum type deal, but a left-handed outfielder that can play pretty good defense on the corners. I mean, that's the kind of replacement you'd want for a guy like Dylan Carlson, where you could plug him in either corner and he can put up some really good at-bats against righties. It's not too far removed for some really good seasons. So I could see the Rays maybe taking a flyer on Austin Hayes as a particular non-tender. There's a few relievers kind of floating about that they could definitely take a flyer on as well. Maybe if they want a pure fourth outfielder, John Berti was DFA'd by the Yankees, who's a big speed and defense kind of utility guy that can play pretty much anywhere. Maybe the Rays are like, hey, he could be our bench spot. So it's all up in the air. I mean, even Brendan Rodgers was DFA'd by the Rockies, who could play a temporary band-aid shortstop role for the Rays. So the options are there, but there's loads of ways that they could attack it. One thing I should probably say, unfortunately, going back to the stadium thing, is all this stuff only makes life harder for the Rays front office in terms of trying to sign free agents. Because let's be honest, players are going to see what's going on with the Rays and their stadium situation and how messy it is. They're not going to want to commit to anything more than 1 year. They know that they're going to be in Tampa playing at Steinbrenner Field next year. But then after that, who knows? And it's really hard to kind of say, yeah, I'll commit to a team that has no idea where they're going to be past 2025. So any player looking for multiple years, it's going to be really tough. Not that the Rays tend to give out many of those anyway, but I think even for 1 year, some players may go, this seems like a mess. I don't want a part of it. So their recruitment has just got a little bit tougher as well. So if the Rays don't make many free agent signings, don't be surprised. We may be in store for a quiet offseason as far as that's regarding. But trades are still an option, and I think the Rays are likely to be active on the trade market. They've got a glut of good pitching, and they have some very clear needs in upgrading the offense, particularly catcher, shortstop, and a corner outfield spot. So keep an eye on what the Rays may do for that. And in terms of keeping your eyes out for other future things, you should keep an eye on the RBLR feed, because we bring Bucks, Lightning, Rowdies, and Rays content to you every single week. And we also let you know any updates that happen with the Rays as they happen. We've got a lot of good stuff planned for the offseason. We've got to do our player reviews, of course. Maybe we might be doing a Jeopardy show at some point soon. That'd be pretty cool. We've still got a champion of champions to declare, I think, which is one of my favorite shows of the year. We're going to be talking to all sorts of people, and you're going to want to be there. You don't want to miss it. So make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe so you know when we go live and when we drop every single episode. And if you like what you heard or have an opinion on anything that I've said or discussed today, be sure to let us know on the socials, and be sure to drop a comment if you're watching on YouTube as well. Otherwise, I'm going to let you go enjoy the rest of your weekend. I have been Pat Davenport. This has been the RBLR Rays Show. And as always, Rays up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.